answer that your question.
Reflections on that.
I had a chat with Alistair Campbell the other night.
We've named.
Well, it's far better to name the spirits who are among us. It's the great dilemma of people of faith who are active in political life. And that is, at the moment you begin professing faith and begin expounding its principles and those which then impact on social and community action, you elevate the prospects of the hypocrisy stakes being argued against you to name the truth of it and to name the essential dimensions of the problem. Look, from where I come from, I'm a garden variety Christian of no fixed denominational abode. And I think the key thing is, whatever your faith tradition, that to the greatest extent that you can, that you not only own it, but that you reflect on that which you seek to do. Always recognising, and I think in the injunction of St. Paul, in a church named after him, that we all fall short of the glory of God. And those of us in the political process certainly do so. And we're among them. Off you go, mate. You give a more saintly version of that.
You know. Some of you may know that my father was a church minister, so I was brought up with this huge debate all the time about politics and religion. And my father used to say to me that one of his friends, he had no way of, he thought fairly, of telling his congregation that he had a particular political persuasion, because he thought it was unfair to those who didn't share his political view that they were expected to sit at his feet while he was lecturing in politics. And so the answer was, on the Sunday after the election, if his party won, the hymn would be, "Now thank we all our God." But if the opposition won, it would be, "O God, our help in ages past," and then, "Forgive our foolish ways." And if another party won by any chance as a surprise, it would be, "O God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform." I think politicians have got to be very careful that they don't turn out to try to be bishops. I think the Bishop of London does the best job of being the bishop. But I think what you do... But it's clear that what you do and what you say reflects the views that you have, the beliefs you hold, the faith you were brought up in, the faith you believe in. And I think it's then for the public to judge. I think we've got to be honest about our views, tell people what we believe in, but I think we've got to respect that there are people of different political persuasions, and much as we might disagree with their views, that they have the right not only to express them, but to build them out of the faith that they hold.
Thank you very much indeed. We've got so many fascinating questions, it's unfortunately impossible to work through them all. But could I ask both speakers to think of a last message in advance of the G20 that you want to leave with this assembly? It is an extraordinary place, St. Paul's, in fact, because we have people of many different faiths here. We have the Patriarch of Jerusalem, we have the Grand Mufti of Egypt, we have the Grand Mufti of Bosnia-Herzegovina, we have Cardinal McCarrick from the United States. We have people of an extraordinary variety, and that's very appropriate because under this dome, which represents the whole world, we've got 4 teachers from the East, and they're looking west. And on the other side, we've got 4 teachers from the West who are looking east. So it's a vision of a world that is coherent and learning from one another. But I'd just like to ask both the speakers if they had some concluding reflections. Perhaps the Prime Minister of Australia first.
A before B, is that right? So Britain second, okay. I wanted time to think.
I was trying flannel to give you an opportunity.
Sure.
But
well, I suppose it's home rules, isn't it? 2 points. And it's an honour to be in this great cathedral for the observations I made at the very beginning, because it gives us a sense of history, and that the deliberation on the great questions of the day helps us to reflect that others before us have had even greater deliberations. It's important. On the question of what we do, and, for example, the point about not letting the Millennium Development Goals slide and slip, this must be core business for all governments, all governments. And let me say something in direct support of my good friend and colleague, Gordon Brown. This bloke, I said this in the United Nations last September, has been, on the question of the Millennium Development Goals, the collective conscience of the West well before they were ever popular or trendy. Gordon has kept us alive. Both as Chancellor and as Prime Minister, and his continued engagement with the likes of me around the world always have that and has that on the agenda. This, I don't know what everyone's described you as a still small voice, but in the theological tradition of a still small voice, this loud booming Scottish voice is always on people about this, and advocacy is necessary. That is my first point. The second also builds on one of his. And he spoke in his remarks, and I wrote the term down before, about the oxygen of confidence. What we're on about in this summit today is to try and restore the balance in terms of the rules of the global financial system, and underpinning that, do something towards restoring the balance on the values which underpin that system. But the other part of the enterprise is this, that then having about us not just a strategy for global economic recovery, but also, importantly, a narrative of global economic recovery in which we can all be confident. What we say and how we speak about the challenges which lie ahead is as important as that which we do as well. And therefore, on the building and rebuilding of confidence in the institutions that we have spoken about, the policies on which we are deliberating, and on the outcomes that we will see on Thursday, let us have about us the habit of rebuilding hope, optimism and confidence. Rational basis for hope, a rational basis for confidence, a rational basis for optimism, and anchored in the rebalancing of the values which I fear, in sadness, that we in recent decades may have lost.
I've had the privilege in the last few days of meeting leaders from all over the world in Chile and Latin America. And I met President Lula, who was explaining to me what his strategy was. He said, when I was a trade unionist, I blamed the government. When I became leader of the opposition, I blamed the government. When I became the head of the government, I blamed America and Europe. And there is a danger